Hello, and welcome to the Smile Revolution Show. I am Princess Wow, and it's good to see you, whether you're live, live or on replay. This is my 173rd show since March 2020, and let's see, I am a woman of many hats, an entertainer, hat designer, storyteller. I used to be a stand-up comic. I used to have a radio show when I was interviewing musicians like Pete Seeger, Richie Havens, David Amram, Roland Musa, Tom Pacheco, and many other Woodstock musicians in Kingston, New York, WKNY. And I got back into doing interviews during the pandemic. So I had such a great night last night. It was so amazing. My friend Karen Millman invited me to Rufus Wainwright concert with opener Rachel Sage, who's been on my show, who's amazing. And it was so much fun. Oh, he's amazing. If you've never seen any of his concerts or heard his music, he's so good. Oh, so I love his personality too. He's so charming, and his music's amazing. And Rachel is too. Rachel's amazing too. And I got to meet Karen. And I got to meet him. He wasn't coming out to meet any of the audience. His husband, manager, was selling, and daughter were selling the albums. However, I know, and Terry Roach from the Roaches sisters have been, Terry's been on my show, and I know that that's his family because let's see, his father. Loudon Wainwright III, who's a famous musician. It's all folk musicians. He was they weren't married, but he was his second partner, who he had a daughter with, Lucy Wainwright Roach. So it's the Roach Wainwright family. And so I mentioned to his husband, my manager, about that I know Terry. And so he came right out. He was really nice and friendly, got some great pictures. And so it was wonderful. And Karen got to meet him too. She's been following him for 25 years. Been to many of his concerts. So it was really great. It was so fun. So he's not coming on my show though. But anyway, they're only focusing on. We talked about it, but they're only focusing on bigger platforms to get interviews, not mine. So it's okay. At least I know. I did ask and heard from the manager today that he's not going to be on my show, but that's okay. At least I got to meet him, and it was really a wonderful experience and concert. So, and let's see. Well, I previewed my show. This is my new solo show, Woodstock or Bust: How a Hat Designer Started a Revolution, in London in April. And I'm totally obsessed. I just love London so much. And I have a lot of friends there, my color walk crowd, like me, and they're artists and very colorful. They get together every third Thursday in Old Spitalfields Market in East London. And I'll be back in September, and I have to go the third week because of the color walk. And I'll be doing some interviews. Well, anyway, save the date, because I will be, anybody who's in New York or close to New York City, I'll be performing my new show at Pangea in the East Village on 2nd Avenue, Thursday, November 9th at 7 o'clock. So hope some of you can come. And I'll be selling at the end. I do this, it's a happening. It's like a storytelling, autobiographical, and I play ukulele, original songs I wrote with Roland Musa, but also other songs by other friends of mine. And at the end, I do a hat happening, which I've done for many years. It's interactive. It's kind of like, kids like to dress up. It's kind of like dress up for adults. And I dress them up with wigs and boas and funky glasses. And it's super fun. And at the end, I'm going to be selling some of my jewelry. Here I make this jewelry. Do you like it? Not this. This is like a vintage 60s, but like this is a ring I made. it's just a fun thing I do. I make these fun jewelry and hats. I do all kinds of hats. This is vintage, but anyway, I make these hats. And what else do I do? I don't know. I do hand painted glasses. I actually did hand paint these, if you can see. And I do rhinestones. I hand painted these, actually, I did. And I do different things, and I hand paint on clothes. So I'm going to have a merch table of my designs at the end. So anyway, it's going to be a happening. Hi, Laura. Thanks for coming live. And so let's see. Yeah, so it's November 9th, Thursday night, Pangea. So I'll be talking more about it as on my shows every week. So I'll be mentioning my save the date thing, and I'll have a poster at some point. Okay, so before my interview with Charles Rosenay, 3 exclamation points. He has this amazing book, the book of top 10 Beatles lists. Before I start the show with him, I found in this magazine, Real Simple, The Power of Positivity, and there's an article, The Science of Smiling. So, of course, I had to pick it up. Okay, it says, you can smile your way to a better frame of mind. Science then seems to support, she talks about this Pfeiffer's daily dose of smiling. This woman, she does a daily dose of smiling in the morning. You can, in essence, fake it until you make it, Pressman says, noting this works best for short-term stressors like traffic. If you're in an uncontrollable situation, like you can't get into a Zoom meeting, or your computer crashes, or your child wakes you up at 2 a.m., that subtle shift to smiling can make a difference. As Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh puts it, sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. Okay, then this is interesting too. For people who get Botox, it says, while the wrinkle reducer may smooth the area around your eyes, it makes it harder for you to generate a genuine smile while simultaneously tendering it more difficult for you to mirror other people's smiles, which may make you come off as less empathetic. I thought that was interesting. And then it says here, smile with your voice. French research has determined that smiles have an acoustic fingerprint that lets others know you're smiling, even if they can't see it. So long as you're smiling, you'll automatically send the right auditory signals, but intensifying your smile can help your smiley voice carry, says Renee Carr, a psychologist based in DC. And then smile through kind actions. Hurrying through stores and swerving to avoid strangers on the street has left us in a desert of affiliative smiles, those friendly looks that serve as social connectors. Make an effort to keep them up, but supplement them with kind actions, says Elizabeth Blevins, a postdoctoral scholar in the psychology department of Stanford University, whose research focuses on cultural differences and emotional values. Quote, if the person behind you in line at the grocery store only has a few items, you let them go ahead of you, or you give your barista a wave or a thumbs up, she suggests. These are all ways to convey positivity. And anyway, so just a few. There's more ideas I'll share another show. But in the meantime, okay, so let's go. Oh, somebody wants to say hello. Okay, here we go. One of my Mindy dolls, Princess Wow dolls. She always they like to come on my show because they're so cute and adorable. Okay. And then who else wants to say hello? Let's see. Gumby and Pokey. I'm giving you a big wave and a smile. Okay. Oh, and I got a new friend today. Let's see. She's going to go. It's funny. I was talking about my mom, Dorothy or Dottie. She went by Dottie. So I was talking about her today. Can you see her? Okay, so she's cute. And guess what her name is? Dottie. It's funny. So my mother, and then this Dottie appeared, but she's going to go in my car. I'm going to double stick tape her on the. She's cute. She's a smile inducer there. Okay, so let's see. Charles Rosenay. Most people have a favorite Beatles song. In fact, most people grew up having a favorite Beatle. In this book, 64 celebrities and Beatles associates reveal their top 10 favorite Beatles songs, albums, themes, and memories. And then, let's see, he's well known to Beatles fans for over 4 decades of promoting conventions, festivals, and events. Since 1983, he's hosted the Magical Mystery Tour to London and Liverpool during Beatleweek. God, I would love to go on that. That sounds really fun. I've never been to Liverpool, which brings travelers on the ultimate fan experience. For over 20 years, he was the publisher and editor of the world-famous Beatles magazine, Good Day Sunshine. So I think that I'm going to bring him on. Okay, here we go. Hi, Charles.
Hi, I'm already smiling.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Okay. All right. So anyway, this is I have to say, thanks to Richard Skipper.
Yes.
Of course, we have to mention Richard right away, that he introduced us recently. And I introduced him to people, and we kind of help each other from time to time, And so thank you, Richard, when you're watching. I don't think Richard can watch it live because he has a show, but he'll be watching as well. And I have a quick question though first. Okay, so why did your triple exclamation points? Where did that come from?
It's nothing to do with Beatles or entertainment, but in college, I was an art student. I thought I'd eventually get a degree and be Darren Stevens and go into advertising. And I remember our fine arts painting class, where in the middle of the semester, the teacher goes, everyone is just everyone is doing a good job, but nothing special. You guys have to find something that will set you aside from everyone else.
Okay.
And I took this,
seriously, right?
Really seriously in everything I do. And I thought, wow, I don't think I'm a great painter. I don't think there's something I can do that's going to set me aside. And on my next assignment, I signed my name with 3 exclamation marks.
Okay.
And I continued to do that. And at the end of the semester, he made a big deal of how clever I was, not because I improved my painting,
right,
but because I did something that made me stand out from the rest of the class, gave me an A on it, and I stuck with it. And
okay, that's good. I was just curious because sometimes I would do an exclamation point with wow. It's Princess Wow. So sometimes I would do the exclamation point. But
I interviewed an artist recently who's been doing stuff, Hanna-Barbera, you name it. He's done every comic book in the history and films and record albums. And he signs it. His name is Scott Shaw, and he signs his name with an exclamation mark. Okay. And I spoke to him for an hour and never discussed the exclamation mark.
Okay. I don't know. I was just curious.
No, it's a great lead. I love it.
Okay, good. All right. So I have to say, I'm a total Anglophile. And I was just in London in April doing my new one-woman show, and I'll be back in September. I just love London. I mean, I'm into London. I haven't been to Liverpool, though. Maybe I need to go to Liverpool.
You need to come to Liverpool.
You think I do? I know.
This is the 40th anniversary, believe it or not, of me bringing fans to. We go London first.
Okay.
We do London. On the way, we visit Henley, which is where Harrison had his home. Oh. And then we wind up in Liverpool for a whole week. I've been doing this for 40 years. And
that's amazing.
Amazing, right? Yeah.
That is so cool. It's amazing. Yeah.
So I've only been to England 56 times.
That is amazing.
And we have the Union Jack behind me. This was perfect for you.
Good. Great. Yeah. No, that's so cool. 50. So, oh God, that's amazing. So I know you're connected to, because reading your book, I haven't read the entire book because it's so much content. But it's really fascinating. It's I've learned so much, and it's really great. So I know that we both have a connection with the Beatles with February 9th, 1964. right? With the Beatles
Yes,
on the Ed Sullivan Show.
100%.
Did you watched it, right? Yeah, right.
I was a kid. It's one of my first memories in life, and it changed me. I mean, I hear of all these musicians who, from that day on, picked up the guitar and wanted to be a Beatle. I didn't have the talent. I didn't have musical what I needed to do to play. So I did everything else. I produced Beatle conventions and festivals. I published a magazine called Good Day
I
Sunshine for
know, that's
20
incredible.
years, and now finally, and the tours, and now finally put a book out on the Beatles after all the years of people saying, "When are you going to do a Beatle book? When are you going to do a Beatle book?"
Right. But you really did do. I mean, every your magazines were what, 90 pages every 2 months?
Ridiculous,
I
right?
mean, that's like, I don't know how you did it.
I don't either. I know we did it. I did it when everyone went to sleep. I lived with my parents. They'd
Okay.
go to sleep. We'd stay up till like midnight. We'd watch horror movies or whatever. I would do my schoolwork in front of them. But when they went to sleep, it was right to my basic computer, and I typed and typed and typed. And it was a pleasure when we finally had computers, because before that I was doing it on typewriters, and it looked
Right.
like
Oh,
crap,
wow.
but it was what it was.
So you did that in the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s through the 90s, yes.
That's amazing.
And
Well,
then
how
when
many,
the internet came around, I thought, it was obsolete, and my parents were
oh,
getting
I
of
see.
age, and I needed to take care of them a little more. And it was just, of all the things I did, it was the most time consuming. It gives you a lot of pleasure when you have that printed magazine and people loved it. But it was great for networking, because if I had, thousands of subscribers all over the world, those were all potentially people who were coming on my tours, coming to,
Right, exactly, right.
so
So it
it
all
all
fit
it all
together and
worked
all like
well.
complemented
Yeah.
each other, right? But I read the Beatles has got your magazines.
Yes. And I mean, we sent it to them all the time and never knew
If they would
that
read it or look
if
at, yeah.
they saw it, if it got to them. But Linda would always remind me, "Oh yes, you're from Connecticut. I'm from Scarsdale. We're not that too far apart." She was wonderful, and she go, "We get your magazine. We love it." And that's like, wow, like
So
Princess.
you're
Wow,
saying Linda McCartney for
that
people
was
who
wow. Linda McCartney, Paul's wife.
McCartney, yeah.
And then years later, it was Ringo Starr had taken a large chunk of his collection and put it out there for charity. He was doing, fundraising for, I forgot what it was for, and I guess it was stuff that he had accumulated. And sure enough, one of the lots was a collection of Good Day Sunshine magazines.
That's
So
amazing.
one of his collecting lots that
So
was,
they collected that. That's so
yeah.
neat. That is so cool. That
So
must have made your like life that you like
yeah,
knew that they were
yeah.
reading
Well,
them.
it gives you a feeling of good credibility.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's amazing.
Hmm.
So over the years, like Linda, you met her, Linda McCartney, you met her like at one of your conventions.
No, I met her numerous times on
Oh,
different functions, because through Good Day Sunshine, I would get press credentials to backstage at concerts,
oh,
press,
right.
press conferences, release,
Okay.
whatever there was. So her I met several times. Ringo, I spoke to on national television. I got to ask him a question on the Phil Donahue show, but also met him at press conferences where I asked questions. George Harrison, I met at an airport once when we went to see his concerts in Japan. Paul many times, most of the times with Linda, but John never John Lennon.
Oh, you never met John.
Nope.
Wow.
Babysat his son Sean, met Yoko, close friends with John's sister Julia. So like all the degrees of
Oh,
separation,
I see. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I know Sean. I've met Sean because my friend Richard Barone is good friends with Yoko and Sean. And I made actually, I make hats too. And Sean, I made a hat 4 years ago.
and
So that's you have a little connection. And I
I
did
love
meet
Richard
Julian. I
Barone.
met Julian once. What?
I love Richard Barone. He played for me in 2014. Was it?
Oh,
We did the 50th anniversary of the Beatles in Coming to America. I did 4 nights. I did the Apollo Theater, I did the
oh,
Hudson Theater,
uh-huh.
Town Hall, and I forgot one of the clubs. And each night was a different theme. So for the Apollo, it was all these R&B acts, soul acts, doing one song of their own and one
Oh,
song of
I
the
see.
Beatles.
Oh,
Yeah, Leslie Uggams was there, Mary Wilson from the Supremes, Betty LaVette, Lloyd Price, Geraldo Rivera did the introductions for
Oh,
it. It
that's
was
so cool.
really, really special. So
As-
Richard Morone and I got close during that period.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, Richard's amazing. He's one of my dear friends, and you know him. If you know him, you know how
he's a
amazing he is.
sweetheart. Yeah.
He's so talented and just such a wonderful person. Oh, that's great. So I just want to say really quick, because we talked about this briefly. I saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show too, and that changed my life too. And that year I had a Beatles party for my
Wow.
birthday, and I
Yeah.
got a Beatles wig and a guitar. And my cousin, who's my same age as me, was there at the party.
Yeah.
We talked about the Beatles party into our 30s.
It
I thought I must have done a good show.
was an
We kept
impactful
talking about that
party.
Beatles party, huh?
It's unbelievable.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. A Beatles party in those days. I remember running around the neighborhood. I was in the Bronx, and I'm a Beatles fan. I'm a Beatles fan. Like someone would say, I'm going to be a fireman someday, or or I
And you
can't
will be like running around saying you're a Beatles fan.
yeah, this little picture just being silly, and my mom said, "All right, already with the Beatle fan," but they were very supportive. They let me buy all the records, all
Okay.
the magazines at the
Okay.
time, and they didn't throw it out, so that was great.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, it is amazing. Your career is like really, I've never met anybody like you. It's like so that you're so like get into it that heavy and make
Yeah.
it into your career. It's amazing.
All the things I've loved, I've been able to somehow
Yeah.
make part of the things that I do for a living and for hobbies and I don't want to use the word obsession because it's never been an obsession. It's just been a passion.
I know, right. And you made it work as a livelihood, and you got to meet all these people, and it is amazing. Your book is, wait, so how many people? Is it 64 people you interviewed in the
Yeah,
book?
64
Everything.
rock stars, authors, celebrities,
Right.
TV, movies, athletes, pop culture notables.
Right.
What I did going into it is I already said I'm going to do a third of this book with people who are direct association with the Beatles, relatives, people who played with them, because for the Beatle diehards who are getting the book, I want them to, get their fill. Then a third of it had to be music people, rock and rollers, people who were maybe affected by the Beatles through their lives. And then a third, just celebrities who people know and love, but wouldn't have guessed had the know-how to write a chapter on the Beatles.
Right.
And so it was, those were the thirds. And I said 64 is that magic number because,
Right.
of course, the Beatles came to America in 64. And will you still need me? Will you still feed me? When I hit 64.
64. And you did it when you were 64.
Well, we're not going to go into that, but I
Oh,
did.
you don't want into that. Okay. No, I thought you said
when the book, right? No, when the 64 was the magic number. We'll leave it at that.
right. That's fine. And then you finished the book on February 9th.
Yeah.
That's amazing too.
How pathetic. I mean, I couldn't have planned it better. That was the day I finished it and sent it off to the publishers, fully corrected and proofed and all that, from my dear friend Janet Davis, who I always got to give credit to because she does a phenomenal job of proofreading. And Shannon, who I don't know if you've ever interviewed, but she is the world's most famous rock and roll artist. And the photos on the book are not photos. That is her artwork. You look at it and you think, oh my gosh. I said, I want four shots, 4 images of the Beatles in the early days when we first fell in love with them in 1964, 4 shots from Sgt. Pepper era, 1967, and 4 from their, Let It Be latter days.
Okay. I didn't realize that. Okay, I see. Now I see it.
Yeah.
And those are all paintings?
Those are all paintings.
No, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and she sets up at the Liverpool Beatleweek and does some, of her artwork live and in person, and she takes a little photo, looks at it, and then creates this unbelievable mural or painting, whatever size people want, and it's exact. You just can't. You look at it and you can't believe she's airbrushing and painting and making this artwork.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
So she works with you at all your tour. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, that's really neat. And then you have, okay, You have Dick Cavett in there.
That was a nice score. Yeah, Dick Cavett. I've been in touch with him for years, trying to get him to do one of my conventions or festivals, or
I see.
even come out on an MC or do stuff. But when I approached him about this one, they said yes. His handlers, and he came up with a great list, and that's nice. It gives that book a little more class.
It definitely does. It definitely does. Oh yeah. And also, yeah, because everybody knows, well, from, our generation, I don't know, the younger people, but people who are into, well, I don't know. But anyway, not everybody knows who everybody is, because it depends on their generation. But
sure.
And anyway, so yeah, and then what's really cool, the Beatles hairdresser Leslie Cavendish.
Yes.
And you have a picture of him when, back in the 60s, and he was so good looking, and it's neat to see that picture.
Guy's still good looking, I'll tell you.
Oh, he is? Oh, good. Oh, that's good. No, he has a really groovy look.
What I really loved doing, because I knew so many of these people, and I was at the risk of, it coming off as ego with having me in pictures with them. I just thought, well, legally, I can put these pictures in, because I took them, or they're my pictures.
Right.
But I think people got a kick out of seeing so many of these celebrities, what they look like now in a picture with me. So in a lot of cases, what I try to do is what they look like then,
right,
and what they look like now.
Right. No, it's neat. It's actually really neat. I love the photos. They're really great. It does add a lot with all the photos you have, and you're like, oh, there he is with Paul McCartney. Which is kind of cool. But I just want to say, this is a Smile Revolution show and project I've been doing for a long time. And I've been inspired, I just want to say really quick, by the Beatles my whole life. And also with Sgt. Pepper, with the colors, because, I'm into all this color. Like, I'm connected to the London Color Walk crowd.
I would never have noticed.
I know, but you know what I mean? But you can see how the Beatles inspired me. And when with the Yellow Submarine.
Sure.
And it goes with the Smile Revolution, because the Beatles always were all the, the songs, or not all of them, but a lot of the early ones, and then they, changed over the years, but a lot of the songs really made people smile.
Absolutely.
And still do forever. Like eternal,
so
right?
Much joy. Yes. Oh my God. So much
joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that in, because it kind of goes with my theme of what I'm doing.
100%.
And anyway, and then I do know Melanie. I've met Melanie and her family, and they're wonderful. And I didn't know the connection with Melanie with John Lennon.
Yes. She appeared on stage with him at the 1-to-1 concert, which of course was presented by Geraldo Rivera. And she's a sweetheart,
She's really great.
Really wonderful. Isn't there a line in one of the Beatles songs called "It's Guaranteed to Raise a Smile"?
Yes, you're right. Yes.
Let me introduce to you the one and only Billy Shear, Sergeant Pepper. Right, in Sergeant Pepper, you've got it.
You're right. You say, I had to throw that in a little bit, And then I've met Mark Hudson, with all his colored beard and everything, and
very colorful.
He does a lot of the conventions, right, with the Beatles.
Yes, he's in Beatleweek in Liverpool now every year. Mark was interesting because, most of the acts of Melanie, who I know so well, I still had to nudge her till I got her to write the list.
Okay.
Mark says, not happening. I go, but I need you in the book. He goes, I want to be in the book. I go, well, how can we make it happen? Well, we sit down, we have a Starbucks. I will talk it out. Okay. You will record it. Okay. You will transpose it and and transcribe it, and that's what we did. We were at something called Beatles on the Beach in Delray Beach.
My friend Maureen Day, my friend lives down there. Maureen, she's a music publicist. You may have met Maureen Day Piatoso.
Of course, I know Maureen.
Yeah, she's one of her dear friends.
Oh yeah, so I fell in love with Delray Beach. It's really a great area on so many levels. But they had the Beatles Festival there. Mark Hudson and I were guests. Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees was a guest. So really, really great event. And sure enough, we took out an hour, went to the local Starbucks, sat down, and what I thought was going to be 10 minutes was 2 hours later.
Really?
He's a great storyteller. As colorful Mark Hudson is with his beard and his look, that's how he is in person. As you know, he's that loud and garrulous and colorful.
Yeah, I
And he
don't
gave
know him well. I just met
oh
him,
oh yeah
just
yeah
met him. So he's
he
not
did,
like a yeah. I
oh,
have a picture with him and I with all our colors
he's
from the
a
Beatle Fest in New Jersey.
oh sure he gave a great list in the book. The other two people who I had to do that with, one on the phone was Joey Molland from
Uh-huh.
Badfinger,
Oh, you
and
did
then
that on the phone? Okay.
yeah, and Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong.
I saw that. I know.
I had to get him to Zoom.
Oh, you did a Zoom with him,
So we
right?
did a nice Zoom, and he gave it to me on, dictate, and I kind of transposed it and made it a little better than the way he spoke it.
That's great. And then Tony Bromwell, that's amazing that you got him. And he was a childhood friend of the Beatles.
Yes, childhood friend, was so instrumental in their Beatle videos, the early,
I know, right?
Strawberry Fields and all that. He did so much with them, and he was a close friend. And he still comes to conventions. He's in England every year and
Yeah,
appears.
okay.
And he's put out a few of his own books. Tony's a
I
great.
really want to read. There's a book that he put out that I've heard is like you've got to read it to get the. Have you read his books?
Yeah.
I've heard that those are important because he was
musts.
with them for years, growing up with them and everything.
Yes.
Well, there's a lot of detail I've heard.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of that type of people in the book. There's a guy who, I don't know if you know, Ivor Davis, who's written a few books. Now, he was with them on their tours because he covered it for the British papers, British media.
Right.
But he was there when they visited Elvis.
I know, that's amazing. That is so cool. Yeah. So I know you've got so many people on the inside.
Yeah, the insiders. His American counterpart, and I only say that because Larry Kane, who's a wonderful guy, is very famous in Philadelphia because he was an anchorman and a newsman forever. Well, he covered the Beatles too as a young American journalist. So Ivor did it as the British guy. Larry King did it as the American guy. His chapter in the book, and I don't know if you got to it yet, it's like a book on its own because he does his top 10 list was his top 10 most memorable concerts that the Beatles did on their own.
I read that. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was friends with Sid Bernstein.
Me too.
Well, of course, because I met him through Maureen.
Oh, yes.
This was his publicist.
She handled his publicity.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah. Sid would call me Bite Chick, and he came to so many of my events.
Oh, yeah, I saw his pictures in your book, right?
Like family, yeah. Loved Sid.
He's a wonderful person.
So you know what? It made me think, in a way, this was the right time to put out the book. I know I was ready. I wasn't ever ready before. But had I done this 10, 15, 20 years ago, Sid would have had a list in the book. Alan Williams, their first manager, Bob Wooler, the DJ at the Cavern, Sam Leach, the early days promoter, so many people who I was close with, lost. I think Linda would have given me a list, Linda McCartney. You can't think in those terms, but anyway, you bring up Sid, and I think that we did so many events with him, and he was always there. He was such a mensch. So much in my heart is Sid Bernstein.
Well, I spent like an hour at his place in the city once, and we just had like the best conversation. Well, because Maureen set it up, she wanted me to meet him because I was close to Pete Seeger.
Oh wow!
And so we kind of brought introduced her to Sid. I don't know if I did or Roland, but Roland Musa. But anyway, so she introduced me, got me into the Sid Bernstein world.
Yes.
And actually, we saw him actually. Julian Lennon had a photography exhibit in Soho.
Oh.
And we were there. That was that was great. And then there were a lot of Mark Hudson. Was it Mark Hudson? Oh, no, it was not. I didn't meet him there. There was another famous rock photographer, Mick Rock. I met Mick Rock at that event. But Sid was there. And Julian and Yoko, they were all there. And Sean.
I'll tell you a funny story about Sid. We were at NBC. I think it was the taping of Saturday Night Live with McCartney, or I don't know if it was the rehearsal during the day or the actual show, but after the show, we said, Sid, we hug. What's going on? He goes, Anna, I was given these 2 passes to the after party, but I'm too tired. You want them? Do I want them?
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. I go to the after party and everyone is, you can't get near McCartney. And it was all right. I met him enough time, but the cast was with him, whatever. So I talked to Rob Schneider. I can't remember who else. And security guy comes over to me. He goes, can I see your ID, please? I go, well, I showed my passes at the door. I know, I need your ID, please.
Oh, wow.
And I took out the passes. And he goes, I need to see your ID that matches that you are Sid Bernstein.
Oh, gosh.
And I said, I don't have that on me. He goes, you'll have to leave. All right, it's okay. I got in there. I did my rounds. I had my free drink, and I met a few of the cast members. But that's a funny remembrance of Sid Bernstein and Paul McCartney.
Right. Oh, wow. Oh, that's so cool. That's really neat. Oh, well, at least you got in for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you also have Paul McCartney's stepmom and stepsister, Ruth and Angie McCartney, in there.
I do.
You met
them. Angie's in her 90s.
Wow.
And the 2 of them host a podcast, T-Flix, Teaflix, which is a branch out of they have a tea company, McCartney's Teas.
I know. I saw that.
Amazing, right? And I've known Ruth a long time. We were at a convention together, and we've stayed friends through the years. And Angie has had me on the show whenever there's an event. But I did a book prior to this, as you know, a top 10 horror lists. And Angie gave me a great list for that. Go figure, right? As did Tony Bramwell. So when I was preparing this book, I went to all my Beatle friends. I went to every relative, and Angie was married to Jim McCartney. Right. And Ruth grew up with Paul in the house.
Right.
So they both gave great lists. When you talk about family relatives, John Lennon's half sister, stepsister, whatever. I call her sister, just sister, Julia Baird.
I know, right?
I
met her.
Yeah, she wrote the forward.
I know, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great that you got that.
Yeah.
I know, that's really cool. And she's a neat person.
She's wonderful. She's so special. And every year when I bring the fans over to Liverpool for this year's the 40th anniversary, as I mentioned, and we go to the Cavern Club and we do everything you would expect, she always greets the fans. She's like she's the ambassador. She's just, and everyone loves her. And she's written a few amazing books. People should look it up if they don't already have it. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read any of her. Okay. She has a few books about her brother.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I'm going to have to catch. Maybe I wonder if I can get a hold of her. Maybe you can introduce me. I met her through Facebook somehow years ago. It would be good to interview her. I'd have to read one of her books, though.
Yeah.
Maybe you can introduce me.
I would gladly.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I have this on public announcement here. Okay. So let's see. Now, this is your first book. But you may do another one. I may do another one at some point.
So this is my third book.
Oh, it's your third. Your third, but not Beatles book. It's
my first Beatles book.
Okay.
And yeah, since it came out, I've since gotten lists that were late that should have been in the book. So yeah, I guess there's that temptation to maybe do another 64 celebrities somewhere down the line. It's not on my radar yet.
You just finished this one. I know.
I just finished this. I have a discography, a really comprehensive book coming out on the band The Turtles, and that's due out at the end of the year. And I'm sort of half and half working on a book on the Monkees for the future. Yeah. So there's always a plan ahead. This is, how people have their second act in life.
Yeah.
So this putting out books, I'm loving it because there's nothing more satisfying than getting and opening up and seeing your finished product when it's fresh out of the printers, that smell, the feel, the touch, and then getting the feedback from the fans who are loving it. That's such a great feeling. But also, after all these years of producing conventions and attending conventions and going up and getting people's autographs, now I'm sitting on the other side of the table. This is a revelation. I'm signing books and people are getting them. And this is amazing. I'm loving that.
Oh, good. Oh, that's great. Yeah. So, let's see. Who else can we talk about here? Let's see. Melanie, and then Mackenzie Phillips. She said she slept with Paul.
That's a cutie, right?
I know
Sure,
that's funny.
she did because she was a kid.
I know, right?
They jumped. She jumped into the hammock with him asleep, and she
Right,
fell
right.
asleep and napped with him.
She
And
napped with him, right?
so I took that,
I know, that's
perfectly
cute. It's
out
cute.
of context. Mackenzie was at an event called Chiller Theater in New Jersey, which is packed with celebrities. It used to be a horror event, but now it's all pop culture celebrities. And I've had the honor of being a guest there twice as a celebrity author. And because I've been in a lot of movies and shorts and all that, so I'm somewhat of an actor. But
Hey, I read that too.
yeah, but I went up to Mackenzie and I said, I need a list from you. And she just rolled her eyes and she said, all right, come back later. And she gave me, I think, what's probably the shortest list in the book. But I
Right.
had to include it because of that story. I had to include
Right.
it.
It's funny. But she is the daughter of from Mamas and Papas, right? John
John
Phillips.
Phillips, right?
Right.
And most of our viewers probably know her from the show One Day at a Time.
Okay.
As
Right.
the older sister. Yeah, Valerie Bertinelli's sister in the show.
Right. Okay. And then you also have Fred Schneider from the B-52s.
I love that guy. Yeah. I mean, him and the McCartneys shared the whole love of animals and PETA and all that. So
Oh.
so that's the connection there. Yoko loved the B-52s and
Okay.
always said that they were an inspiration. So he fit two of the checklists. He was the musician who had no relation with the Beatles, but yet he did have a contact with the Beatles in this far disconnected way. I loved his list. He gave a great list. Fred Schneider is
Yeah. And then
great.
Richard Barone in the 80s toured his band, the Bongos toured,
Those
opened
toured
for
with the
them, opened for
B-52s.
the B-52s,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, that connection with Richard again.
Yeah, good one.
I know, yeah, okay. Okay, let's see what else. Let's see. Mark Hudson. I'm just thinking of people that I know, but okay. And you have Lawrence Juber from Wings.
Yes. Lawrence Juber is a star. I mean, a star in his own right. He's put out some amazing solo albums and he still does. He's still out there. They have these Grammy Museum events every so often with superstar acts, and he's right there. He's part of that band. Lawrence is a great guy. I love him very much. Steve Holly, who I'm also close to from the Wings days, apologized because it was the wrong time and all that. He didn't get me a list, and I guess he's seen the book since, and he said he wished he was in it. But you can't fit everyone.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, and then the thing is that I've learned so much from your book because, I mean, you're a promoter, right? So like it's like every chapter with each person, you have their website. So it's like, it's great because you can like look into everybody's work more.
Yes, you can do a deeper dig. Yeah,
deeper dig with everybody, which is really good. And also you have Fang from Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Do you remember the band? Yeah.
Well, Mark Lindsay was my big crush when I was a kid. I met Mark in LA. And anyway, so yeah.
If you got 16 magazine or Tiger D,
I did.
In the days, you couldn't miss. The Raiders were in every issue.
It was huge.
And Phil Fang Volk, and they called him Fang because of his little teeth there. Okay. We've been friends now probably 15, 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And every time I go to Vegas, we hang out.
Okay.
But he gave a great list. He was one of the few who said he wants to see the list with my edits or with my final proof before it goes in, and he loved it. He said he couldn't proof it better, and he was very pleased with his list. So that was
great.
good. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Great. And is there anything else that you want to mention before we wrap it up?
That people can get the book on Amazon if they want to go the easy way. That's the easy way. But if they want a signed copy or an inscribed or with a dedication, the website that's right on our scroll there is www.bookofTop10, and it's the number 10, not TEN.
I know, right.
BeatlesLists.com. I'd love to send it along. I always include, a business card or a photo or something special.
Uh-huh.
And I think most of my sales, believe it or not, no, probably half have been on Amazon, are at conventions or through the mail or from listening to a show like this.
Uh-huh.
And people want to read a copy, get a copy of the book. And what I want to always impress, and I think you've done a good job of conveying that, is it's not just these people with their lists.
Right.
It's not just Dave Winfield of the Yankees. These are my top 10 favorite songs.
No, it's stories.
They gave stories. They gave reasons.
Gave a lot of stories. Yes, that's the thing about it. See, I love the stories. I mean, everybody loves stories have to do with the Beatles.
Yes.
So no, I love the fact that you have both, that it's not just a list. Even though some people may think it's not. It's all a lot of information that you would never know about the Beatles. But also, like the Cavern days, we didn't talk about that. You've got a lot of people.
People from the day, right?
Huh?
Right, from the Beatles' beginnings. Guys who played with them in the Quarrymen.
Right.
And people who were there at the Cavern. Yes, that's a very big, thank you for mentioning that, because it's overlooked. People who you don't know about maybe otherwise, who are that little factoid or bit of the Beatles history, who I was able to, track down. I was somewhat of a detective in many ways. It wasn't easy to get some of these people. And I always mention Frankie O'Connor, who was one of the contemporaries of the Beatles, who was then on the BBC, but Chas Newby, who I only met last August after all these years at the unveiling of a Brian Epstein statue in Liverpool. Chas was the first lefty bassist in the Beatles when they came back from Hamburg and Stu Sutcliffe stayed in Germany. Paul hadn't yet moved over to bass. Chas Newby had to come in and fill in on some of the shows. Chas just passed away a few months ago, but he gave me his list, and that's an important part in my mind. That's an important part of the Beatles history, and he's in the book too. But for those people who only care about the lists, and there might be some. Yeah. What we did is a very, very complete index in the back.
Right.
And what that serves is, let's say you love the song Hey Jude, or you love I Want to Hold Your Hand. You can jump to the back and see which other celebrities picked that particular song.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. That's so cool. I know. I think that is so neat. The song index. Yeah, that's really neat. Yeah, I love that. Act Naturally, Angie McCartney. And a lot of people, of course, love Yesterday.
Oh, yeah. That was picked by many. Some of them, you're so surprised that so many picked. Others, you think of songs and say, how could more people not have picked them? It's part of the game. And it's just a matter of numbers. Out of 64, it's one of those I see all the time. They do random surveys of 100 people. Well, those 100 people might be a certain demographic. If I interviewed 20-year-olds, they would have had probably different song choices than 60-year-olds might have.
Then you have another list, the toppermost of the poppermost. The final top 10s.
I think that was important.
Yesterday, 19.
Yeah.
Eleanor Rigby, 14. Let It Be, 12.
Yep.
Hey Jude, 11. Something, 10. Come Together, 8. A Day in the Life, 8. In My Life, 8. Strawberry Fields Forever, 8. And We Can Work It Out, 8. So that's cool too.
Yes. Yeah. To see which songs actually
got the most popular.
You pick the most. Yeah.
And then you have here your top 10 list at the end.
Very different. That was hard. When I did the horror book, I and everyone said, "Oh no, you have to include your own top 10 list." So what I did is I was very, very tricky. I was cheeky. I included my top 10 favorite roles that I was in the horror genre. Here, I thought, well, maybe I'll go with more than just list. The ones that had the most memories and most impact on my life. Or most, for example, Magneto and Titanium Man, a song by Paul McCartney, which people don't, think about right away as a McCartney song, has a lot of meaning to me because when I drove the kids to school, they loved Marvel artists, Marvel comics, and those are It's all about superheroes and supervillains, and they would make me play it in the car on the way to school. And so that has a lot of memory to me. So that was one of the ones I included. But thank you for mentioning my list, because it's not just a plain list. I had to think out of the box for that one.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, Charles. Well, it's been really great to meet you and to connect and hear all about all the amazing things. Your career has just been like incredible.
I think we share a lot of the same loves and passions.
Yeah.
And I just love your color and your smile and just everything about you and your show. And it's been an honor being on.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. And we'll thank Richard Skipper for that. And I appreciate your comments. That's very sweet of you. So anyway, we'll keep smiling and keep the joy, right? That's what we need more of in the world. And more and Beatles are forever.
Upbeat and up Beatles.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, great to meet you. And I'm sure some of my people will be getting your book as I did and enjoying. It's really, there's so much here that you just have to keep It's kind of like a reference book. You just pick it up and you're like, oh, who is this person? You're like, and it's just really great. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll talk to you later. Thanks a lot.
That's great.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Anyway, whoever's still on or watching a replay, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And you can get his book, as he said, on Amazon or on his website. Okay. So anyway, thanks so much for joining me and Charles. And next week, I've got a musician, Joe Stabnick. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. He does a lot of work with the Puma Pearl and some other East Village musicians. And I love his work. And then I've got Steve Adabo, who is amazing. And he's worked a lot with Eric Anderson and Richard Barone. And he's a music producer. And I love his album. And he's also the music director for Richard Barone's his concert at Carnegie Hall in November. The tickets are almost sold out. I got mine within the first hour. So thanks for joining. Keep smiling, keep sweet. Join the Smile Revolution and be grateful for what you do have. It's not always easy. But we're signing off now, and see you next Monday at 8 Eastern Time. Love you all very much. And here come my credits. Let's see if I can find them. Okay. It's called the Smile Revolution that comes, goes round and back to you. So smile, 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 a simple smile.